after you have connected. And therefore, what we are doing in this space is to ensure that we now create a space where people know that they can go and find comfort and find another person who can support them to hold their hand. And that's what we do. And usually, depending on what we are covering, some of these conversations are recorded and we upload them on YouTube so that then people can find the space and know that this is where they are connecting. And it's been encouraging to see that the community continues to grow. Before, as I was telling you at the start, before we would start the session and we were preaching to ourselves. You find yourselves there and you all know each other. Now it's good news that a workplace coach will come in and find people who are doing leader as coach, but also find other guests who are just curious about coaching. We have people from the International Coaching Federation community. So it's always very, very exciting. And tonight, why we invited you, Malcolm, I love that coaching waiting, not coaching waiting. I see Dorothy has something there saying coaching waiting. Yes, just about to graduate, something to that effect. Yeah, but the idea is that when I get my certificate, then what is going to happen next? And I think when you accepted to come and join us, Malcolm, we just felt really, we are humbled. You know, we know that you're a very busy person. So getting to have you squeeze us in your time is something that we don't want to take for granted. I know that some of us had an opportunity of seeing you during the International Coaching Week that happens during the second week of May, because you had a couple of activities that you participated in. There were a couple of activities that were organized by the International Coaching Federation, that is in Uganda. And so we know that there were a couple of those that were able to experience. Then, of course, you came and had a session with us. That is Imagine Me Africa, when we were making 12 years. But we also had 16 people that were graduating to become coaches. And that is very exciting that our numbers are growing. Currently, we have a class of 24. So we are looking forward to graduating those ones as well in the near future. But also, I remember Friday, the International Coaching Federation, alongside Coach Masters Academy and Coach Africa, they also had another engagement where we were looking at adaptive leadership. So when we come into this space as the Workplace Coach Conclave, we are looking at it as a movement of coaches. So when we come here, we celebrate every coach that signs on, regardless of which school you belong to or whatever it is. And yeah, for as long as we are all in the coaching space, we want to be able to connect. So the way we are going to run this evening, I know that Malcolm has a presentation for us. And with that presentation, after that presentation, we shall have an opportunity to reflect and ask any questions that we would have to ask. But before I introduce him, I want us to go to the chat bar and just share with us what is that one thing that you're looking forward to in this session. If you could just type in the chat bar so that we see what you're expecting from the session before I officially welcome Malcolm. Waiting, people. Show Malcolm some love by sharing so that he knows that what he's not coming to talk to people who don't want to listen to him. Or if you want, we could, you could unmute and just share if that's your if that's your preference. Maybe Primrose, if you can first remove the spotlight, people might want to speak up and share with us what it is that they want to see. How to proceed with my coaching skills. That's Annette Irankunda. How does she proceed with her coaching skills? Who else? What are you expecting? Malcolm is listening.
Malcolm, my name is Esther.
Yes.
I wanted to know, after passing the workplace coach, what's next? What do I do with it? Because it looks like I get the knowledge and I'm just there like that. And I would like to make some money also. So all is making my head some way.
I think the latter part is
Thank
the
you,
most
Esther.
important. Malcolm, how does one make money? You tell them go and acquire, go and acquire the skills, ensure they're ICF
And then
aligned,
what?
and then what? Yes, I like that. Titus is saying, expecting to join the parts that make coaching continue to impact. What next? Then Gloria, what international communities can we, the Uganda coaches, take advantage of? First time here, so I'm open-minded. You're welcome, David. You're welcome, Rachel. Monetization of my coaching, especially the target audience who are young people in tech careers. Some people have their niches cut out. So somebody is
Mhm.
saying now, if I am cut out for the tech guys and they are majorly young people, how do I make money? Let me see here. Anne-Marie, first time here, open-minded. Gloria, what international opportunities can we tap into? How to coach other supervisors within the workplace. Yes, that's very important. How to coach other supervisors within the organization, how to proceed with coaching skills. So essentially, when people have acquired their skills, what next? And I think these are important expectations and align with what we want to look at. How do you fast track your career? Learning more on how to become a better coach. How do I choose my niche? Wow. Also, my first time, and I really want to know how I can help others and myself. That's a noble cause, Bridget, that every time we are equipping ourselves, we are not equipping ourselves for the sake of equipping ourselves. We do it for other human beings. And I think for me, it's always scary understanding that, coaching comes with a responsibility. And as you look at that responsibility, you know that it's for another human being that you're going to have a conversation with. And that conversation might be the one that creates that moment that they have been waiting for. So with that, I see, okay, Susan has something here, making the coaching experience clear for SMEs. So now, hey, Malcolm, we have SMEs, we have tech, we have supervisors, all these are categories. And I'm sure all these are coaches trying to cover out niches. Tech, SMEs, supervisors, if I'm in a workplace. Of course, for us at Imagine Me Africa, one of the things that we are trying to democratize coaching, if you want to sound a little bit NGO-ish. We are saying that everyone who wants coaching must find it in the workplace because we know that coaching can be pricey. But I mean, right now, if all organizations in this country got up and said we want coaching, we actually don't have the numbers, Malcolm. We don't know how to help them if they all woke up and said, now you have spread the gospel according to coaching. We are
Yeah.
ready. And they ask us for the coaches. When we go to the International Coaching Federation and look for those numbers, we are not enough. It is quite scary. And so then we are telling people that as they jump onto the bus of coaches, how then do they position themselves? And therefore, that's why we are here to look at how to fast track your career. So I'm going to introduce Malcolm. Malcolm Fiellies is a professional certified coach. That means he's PCC level 2, so he has a minimum of 500 hours of practice plus. Because you see, if you're at 400, if you're at 4,999, you're still not MCC. You still continue to count. But he's the regional director for Europe and Africa at the International Coaching Federation, which is the world's largest and most globally recognized professional body for coaches. In this role, he partners with leaders, chapters, and coaching communities across these two continents to expand the awareness, credibility, and adoption of coaching as a catalyst for organizational and societal transformation. I think for us, we belong to the community arm of things. He's a strategic thinker with a deep commitment to professional excellence. He leads regional initiatives that strengthen ICF's visibility, membership growth, and impact. He also works closely with chapter leaders and organization partners to cultivate coaching cultures that elevate leadership, enhance performance, and support human-centered workplaces. His work includes guiding volunteer leaders, enabling chapter success, and adapting regional strategies to meet the evolving needs of organizations and the coaching profession. And therefore, we really welcome him in this place. By the way, for him to get his PCC, he had to do a postgraduate diploma in coaching. And then he holds a bachelor's degree in accounting sciences, and he's into project management. So you can imagine project management, accounting, and coaching. All those three things are coming together. His blend of business acumen and coaching expertise enables him to bridge strategic priorities with human development, helping leaders see coaching not as an intervention, but as a competitive advantage. He is also a contributing author to the World of Coaching, an African Experience, where his chapter is Transforming Africa Through Coaching. And it explores the role of coaching in unlocking potential and shaping the continent's future. Of course, as coaches, that is the tech side of things of him. But there's something that is very, very interesting about Malcolm. We were having a conversation, a chat, and I asked him, but Malcolm, what is it that I don't know about you? What is it? What is it that you have as a hobby? And he described himself as has been, has been and is trying to come back runner. Has been and is trying to come back runner. But this is not simple running. If you've heard about the South African marathon of 90 kilometers, he has done it 9 times. 90 kilometers 9 times. And remember, this happens once a year. So I think when you think about the fact that somebody is able to look every year they go and run for 90 kilometers, some of us, when they tell us wake up and go walk for 3 kilometers, you begin thinking, will I make it 90 kilometers? But he last did it in 2022, so he's trying to do a comeback. And I'm sure that will be the entry point into this conversation to say, what is it? 90 kilometers, 9 years, and somewhat you took a break and you want to come back. But I also look at that as something that relates to coaching, because maybe sometimes you can say, what is there to learn? I'm MCC. Is there anything more to learn? Or I'm PCC. After all, I get results. Sometimes, actually, I know that some of the objection at level 1, people will tell you, but what more is there to learn? So why should you continue running 90 kilometers? So you're very welcome, Malcolm Fiellies.
Thank
Phil
you.
at Imagine Me Africa, Phil at the Workplace Conclave, Phil at ICF, because I see members of ICF on the call. Yeah, you are in the right place, and we are looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Joanne, and good evening, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have not forgotten my experience when I was in Kampala. So I still remember it very fondly. Joanne, I can still remember the unveiling of the level 1 certificate. So yeah, it's exciting. I always tell Joanne, and I'm sure by now she thinks I'm just being silly, but I am really impressed, not just impressed, I'm excited for coaching in Uganda. I'm excited for Joanne in her vision and the way she actually drives coaching in the workplace and around. So yeah, thank you for all the questions. I think that's a very good starting point, but I've got my own presentation, so it may or may not align, but we'll get the gist of it, but we will answer in some of those things. Something that I can bring is some of my experiences, especially with some of the questions. I can bring some of my experiences in here, and then we can share from there. So talking about the ultra marathon, I think most of you might have heard, or some of you might have heard about the Comrades Marathon. So the Comrades Marathon, it's a race between Pietermaritzburg in South Africa, in Durban, through to Durban. So you basically either go from coast inland or from inland down to the coast. So every year it's something new. And there's something that I've learned over the 9 years that I've actually run the Comrades, is that every year when you start, you're a novice. Sometimes we think, I've done this, and then it's okay, I've now arrived. And one thing that Comrades teaches you is that you have not arrived until you have finished that year. I cannot guarantee my current success on my past success. In other words, I need to train again to make sure that I am successful this year. And how does that translate to coaching? To your coaching journey, it's going to be, I've done the workplace coach training. I have arrived only at this point to do it again and to move forward. So Esther, your question is now what, right? So I normally divide my things into the what, the so what, and now what. So what is this thing that we are talking about? What is this awareness that I got? So I've got the what. I've got my workplace coach qualification. So that's it. So what about this is important? So what is this meaning to me? This means that I've built certain skills. This means it gives me entry to ICF, and I will speak a lot about ICF. I work for them, and I believe in what we do. So this is what it is. So what about this? So this gives me one step into credibility in terms of coaching. This gives me now what, and then the last part is now what I'm going to do about it. So it's very easy to say that I've got this, but we always get stuck on the what. Sometimes we venture into the so what, but then we get to the now what, then it's like, I'm stuck. And so we're going to explore some of those things. And the question that you've asked today really kind of speaks to the now what. So now what am I going to do about this? So how am I going to have this better coaching session? So how am I going to do this? It's really the now what questions that we're going to deal with. And so coming back to the analogy of the marathon is not something that you wake up and you go do. Joanne talks about the 3 kilometers. I remember in 2008 when I started running, I ran for 2 kilometers. No. I ran walk for 2 kilometers. I came back home. I nearly died. I'm sure I had 2 resurrections and 3 deaths or something to that effect. And the thing that got me to 90 kilometers is the belief that I need to take one more step. That's it. It's literally just one more step. And every day you take one more step. You take one more kilometer. You take extra 10 minutes. Then you do this. When it comes to your coaching journey, it's exactly the same. So we're starting off to get to that point where I'm a PCC and MCC, where I've got my ACC or I'm coaching executives, whatever that end goal is for you with your coaching training, it is about taking the next step. Marshall Goldsmith, the one quote that I like about him, I think is the book, title of the book as well. What got you here won't get you there. So you got your qualification now. So now the question is, now what? What next? And how do I get that? And how does my now what and my what next actually benefit me and help me within my coaching? Maybe if I can start this way, Joanne, and I'm literally, 2 or 3 people can open their mics. Why did you decide, for those that did the workplace coach program, what prompted you to do that? And what is the one value that you got out of that program? So maybe if we can get, so I've got Esther. So, Primrose, clever. Thank you. Now I know exactly who did the workplace coach one, so I can call them out. Esther, how are you?
Yes, sir. I'm fine, sir.
Because you asked me a question, I'm going to ask you a question now. So tell us what drove you to do the workplace coach program?
Okay, so I'm one person that people are fond of. I'm a purpose person. So I get
Mhm.
people coming to me a lot at the workplace, my subordinates, my colleagues, even my superiors. They love
Yeah.
to talk with me. And most times when they leave, they seem happy, but I keep asking myself, did I do it right? Are they really
Mm.
going out with something? So when I heard about the coaching program, I said I would like to do it better. So that was what brought me to get the workplace coach. Thank you.
And what is one value that you got out of the program? What is the one thing for yourself that you found valuable?
Yes, the act of listening, my listening has
Mm.
improved tremendously. And even my friends tell me that, we really feel that when we come to you, are listening to us. I
Yeah.
have been wondering what I've been doing to them all along for them to say this to me now.
Esther, thank you for that. You're reminding me about another colleague of mine. And she was telling us, because we some of the questions that we were talking about. And then she said, my friends are surprised that I can shut my mouth and listen. Because before coaching, I couldn't shut my mouth. I would just talk and not listen. So coaching training does something. Now, something that I want you to maybe look at is, and we'll get to my presentation now, just is the experience of shift that you had in your while doing your training is the experience of shift that your client is going to experience from you, is what your client is going to take away from that session with you. So when you are present in a session, somehow just by being around you, by navigating the way you navigate that coaching session, is something that your client or the person that you've coached is taking with them. Somehow, without telling them that you have to be present, they learn to be more present in that because they realize Esther has listened to me. She was present. She didn't fidget. She was actually part of this conversation. And that's how things kind of move forward as well. So when we come into a coaching session, we don't just come in with our training, we come in with our being. And we come in with everything that I've ever experienced in life. So while we keep a distance between parallel processing our own issues versus our client, we actually bring the client so much value. And so some of the questions normally come, Malcolm, how do I make money? You make money when you start advocating for your value, not your cost. And so if you want to monetize coaching, it's not about the cost, it's about the value that you bring to your client. When you bring a value to an organization to say, organization X, this is what I'm bringing to you. After a team coaching session, after an executive coaching session, this is what your culture will be like. This is what, if they work in the session, this it's value that you're selling, and people are willing to buy value the moment we can articulate. So the question that you need to maybe reflect on is, what value am I bringing to my client? And how much is that worth to my client? The other one is about finding my niche. Finding your niche is one thing, but also finding your client is another one. We have the question about SMEs as an example. So in my coaching practice that I had, I worked a lot with entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs is a different dynamic compared to an executive, etc., versus somebody that's employed, versus somebody that's in their own space coming into us. And so when you look at that, is to say, for me, entrepreneurs and business owners, small business owners, was my niche. But they weren't just my niche in terms of entrepreneurial. It was literally they were my client. And I could see them being a
Progress.
client. Oh, I'm getting some feedback. Am I okay? Okay. So yeah, so for me, that was a key driver for me was this is my client. Why was that my client? I had a bigger social impact agenda to what I do, and that for me was important. And so it was also then based on that client, what can that client afford and how valuable is it what I offer to them? So sometimes we find ourselves getting clients that cannot pay us, and then we say, but I can't charge. But maybe you need to shift your client. Maybe you need to shift to say, there's a different area that I need to maybe specialize in. So before I get carried away, because you can see I can talk, right? So let me go to my presentation and do my official work. But please feel free in between, in the chat, pop a question and that. Primrose, can I ask you just to take note of, so if there's like 2 or 3 questions coming in into the chat, just indicate to me. I will stop the presentation. We deal with those. I like to deal with them as we go along. If it's something
Okay.
that I know I'm going to cover later in the presentation, we will cover that. Then I will say, okay, fine, we'll deal with it when we get there. Are we all okay with
Okay.
that? If I can just get a
Okay.
thumbs up emoji from everybody, that we're okay with the pace that we'll be going at. Okay, perfect. Okay, starting, we'll stop other participants' computer sound share. Yes. So let's do this, and there we go. So I just need to make sure that you're seeing the, all right. It's a full presentation, right? So it's not the, okay, cool, perfect. All right, so that's why we are here today. So these are some of the things that we're going to cover is really, number one, to understand your coaching journey beyond the training. So this is the so what and now what that we're going to cover. Why is that important? Why is that journey actually important? The other thing is also, what is some market research? From an ICF perspective, we do so many different researches over a period of time. The latest one that we've done last year in 2025 that we completed and published was the Global Coaching Study. And that's a study where we got 10,000 coaches together. And we surveyed them and they gave us some feedback. So we're going to give you some feedback from them. Currently, what we're busy with is also the consumer awareness one. And then, so maybe Joanne, in the beginning of next year, when those results are available, I can come in and talk to our colleagues here about what does the consumer say? What's about important to them? And so from an ICF perspective, we support you every part of your journey. And that's why I'm here today, is to kind of present ICF and how we can support you in your different parts of your journey. And, for this week only, I'm like a very telemarketer. We've got a bit of a discount for your first year of membership when we get there, but we'll cover those. So currently you are here. And when I'm saying here, you're busy with either have completed or busy with your coach specific training. Now, if you have completed the level one, and I think Joanne mentioned to me that even like the leader coach program has got 60 hours. So to become a member of ICF, you actually just need 60 hours of coach specific training. So currently you are ah okay. I just realized I'm muted now. Um, Primrose, how far was I unmuted? Do I have to start?
No, continue.
Okay, I continue. Thank you. I don't know why I muted myself, so sorry about that. Okay, so we are here now. We created the training. We are there. Now that's our first step. And so the next step that we go is that now we want to grow. Our next step is as I complete, how else? Remember I said like with the marathon thing, you've never arrived fully. You always create a baseline for the next step. It's always about, so what is my next step now? When we go into the space, this is where we're looking for a home. Where we're looking for a home in terms of that can provide us education. And I'm very excited about this conclave and the type of topics that really come into this for creating a community where we're able to network. Mentor coaching is something that's very important. So that helps you to grow in your professional capacity. And then you move towards your first credential. And then as we move to step 3, it is literally our continuing education. The thing about coaching and about human beings evolve. So your coaching methodologies also evolve. I mean, I remember my knowledge started with executive coaching only. From there, now we've got so many different issues. You got career coaching, you got all of these different elements. You even have like Esther, she's at a workplace. So internal coaching also then becomes something that we look at as an opportunity. So how do I build my expertise within that niche? Within my market that I'm operating, and what are some of the other things that we can do. Then also looking at coaching opportunities. How do I connect with other coaches to be able to get some opportunities to be able to coach with them or for them, etc. And then also our credential coach finder is how do people find me? So if I'm an ICF coach or if I've completed the Imagine Me program, how do people find me? And so we're looking at that as a career path. Now, in order for us to get to number 3, there's something that needs to happen in number 2. You've done your training now. So now we're going to number 2 in terms of where we are at. Looking beyond our training, this is our full coaching journey. So we started exploring about can coaching be my future? For some of those that's coming for the workplace is can coaching really help me in what I'm doing? Can coaching actually support me within my workplace and my leadership where I am? And so from there, you did the exciting thing. You spoke to Joanne and to Primrose, and you signed up. Now, 2 and 3 is where you are at the moment. You are becoming, in other words, you're getting trained, and now those who have trained is seeking the next part of the journey, which is the credential. And then we're looking to grow. There's something in that at the bottom there, it says belonging, both belonging and support. So that is where we are at. And that is what we want to kind of focus on in terms of how that support will come to you. And then we excel. We win clients, we deepen our skills, and then we lead. Now, lead is really one of those things is that I believe that every person on the school has got an impact on the coaching ecosystem, coaching profession as a whole, in one way or the other. And so that might even be a desire. Joanne is a trailblazer when it comes to Uganda and coaching. And so that is how she leads and she actually impacts. So how do we help shape the profession within Uganda, within our organizations, and within our communities as a whole? And moving on, just to give you a landscape in terms of what the coaching market looks like. Now, these are important. These are not just numbers to look good. They are numbers to say, yes, the market is growing. But as the market grows, people become more picky. They become more selective in terms of who is a coach. Now, some of you will tell me, Malcolm, but everybody can call themselves coach. That is absolutely true. So the question is, in this $5.3 billion business, what is making you stand apart so that you can have a piece of that pie? And there's some things in these numbers that kind of give us, some good insights. So you got 200, that's the average fee that one can charge for an hour. Obviously, we break it down to our context, break it down to the client that I'm actually working with. If you're working with an individual client, in other words, Malcolm from his home or something, and he's paying for himself, that's got a different number to it, vis-a-vis if my organization pays for it because it's part of their programming. So as a coach also, you want to look at how do you monetize, how do you grow your revenue streams, look at your client bases and look at this, diversifying those as well. And then the average annual revenue, and these are for coach practitioners. So in other words, people that have a coaching practice. So the average revenue is about $49,000 per year. And then 73% of these coaches say that their client expects them to have a credential. So that is an important thing. So if 70%, 73% of clients expect you to have a credential and you don't have a credential, then the question is, will I share in the pie of all of these things that's coming out? The coaching business is growing. And even if we look at the amount of coaches overall, it's quite huge compared to what had happened in 2023. So when we look at these numbers all increase by between 10 and 20% from the 2023 survey that we did. Now, it pays to be credentialed. So the question is, post my training with Imagine Me, I've got the workplace. I even got the leader as coach certification or certificate. Now what? And the question is, what can I do next? And my encouragement is professionalize your coaching. You're professionalizing your coaching by achieving even greater heights in terms of your coaching journey, in terms of your credibility, and that comes through your credential. And so when you look at the numbers on the screen, the percentages there, you can see that there is higher revenue, higher opportunity, higher earnings cost if you have a credential. Now, why is a credential important? Number one, it strengthens your credibility with clients and employers. Within my context, I normally get people, so there's certain organizations in South Africa where a credential is highly important for you to sit on the panel. Now, organizations that will normally invite coaches to sit on the panel where their staff can go into that particular platform and say, I've got these 5 coaches, I've got Primrose, Malcolm, Joanne, and Esther, and I can choose from one of them and connect with them to be able to have a coaching session. Now, for you to sit on that panel, there are strict requirements for that organization. Understanding that the organization wants to protect their staff. As much as they want to support them, they also want to protect them from just any fly-by-night. So they want to make sure that the person that they entrust their staff to is credible, is able to do what they need to do, and a credential does that. And I'm going to share with you the 3 credentials that we have now. Secondly, it increases client satisfaction. When we look at our survey, about 85% of clients who had a coaching relationship with a credential coach are satisfied, vis-a-vis 70-something% with those that were satisfied, but with a client that does not have a credential, with a coach that doesn't have a credential, sorry. So when you look at that, it makes a big difference in terms of client satisfaction. Why is client satisfaction important? The one thing that you will find in your coaching practice is not so much the amount of advertising you do, because that's you speaking about yourself. It's the amount of how others become your ambassadors, how your current clients become your ambassadors. So if your current client is satisfied with the work that you've done with them and what it is that they got out of it, and this is something that you maybe want to do, is measure with your client the return on the expectation. So yes, we know about the return on investment, and that's important because we want to see your bottom line, especially from an organizational point of view. But there's also the concept of return on expectation, which then get measured to say, client, when you started with us, your expectation was X. Have we met that expectation? And if you've met or exceeded that expectation, that client becomes an ambassador, and they will say, Joanne, you want to do the coaching thing? There's the panel. Our organization has got this panel. I used Malcolm, I used Esther, I used, Primrose. And so I think you should do the same. At least explore them. And so you can see that the increase in client satisfaction brings trust. It also brings an ambassador for you to actually get more clients from that person. And this has been my personal experience. If you go into my LinkedIn, you will see there's not a lot of advertising. I don't advertise, but people will come to me based on somebody else's referral. You build your professional network. because now it's like doctors coming together as doctors. Credential coaches come together. We speak the same language. We understand each other. We understand each other's challenges. We support one another within that. And then when you also, I mean, currently as ICF, we got about more than 60,000 members and credential holders worldwide. And that's an opportunity in terms of somebody asked a question about a global network. Now, within ICF, that's what we provide you. We provide you a global network of coaches literally in the 170 countries or 150 countries that we are operating in. And so with our 60,000 members, you can see there's a big global network for you to be able to support. We also have a local chapters that we have, and Uganda has got a local chapter. And I mean, these are all communities that you can build in addition to the conclave sessions that we have here on a Monday evening. So it pays to be credentialed. And so the question is, after my training, what's next? What's next is, let me pursue my credential. The credential is not just there. So if you're an internal coach, you're going to say, Balco, I'm an internal coach. It's not going to increase my revenue. It will increase your credibility. It's more than for others than it is to yourself. So for you to feel comfortable, and I saw somebody speaking about not feeling like an imposter. The question is, how do I not feel like an imposter? I don't feel like an imposter as I grow myself, as I develop myself. So my credentials that I went from being a member of ICF to an ACC was for me. Yes, my clients then started trusting me a bit more because they saw these 3 letters, then to PCC, but it was something for me to show this is how I am personally growing in my professional career. So it pays to be credentialed, not just financially, but also from your own satisfaction in terms of the things that you've achieved. ICF has got 3 credential levels, and the question is, where will you land, right? And the reason why I was excited about the level 1 accreditation for the Imagine Me Workplace Coach program is that it gives you direct access. You got no idea how much you save time just have done that. So level 1 program, like the workplace coach, gives you direct access to the ACC, the Associate Certified Coach. Now, what does that mean? When somebody sees ACC, PCC, MCC, it's not just 3 letters. It is a story of a journey. It's a story of a journey of a professional coach. For ACC, the story is that they've done at least a workplace coach training, which gives them 60 hours of education or more, right? It tells the story that this person is experienced. They at least, at minimum, have 100 hours of coaching experience. It tells them also behind the scenes here that they didn't just achieve this, but they actually had to write an exam to actually achieve this particular credential. So in other words, there was a robust process of testing their ability to be able to be a professional coach. What sits behind this also is your 10 hours of mentor coaching that you have done to help you in your professional growth and your ability to coach. So when you see ACC, it's not just 3 letters of somebody just bought something somewhere. It is a story of dedication. It's a story of professionalism. It's a story of grit and perseverance. And it's a story to say, I want the best for me and my clients. Remember, as coaches, we are here as servers in service of our clients. And so as I go through my credentialing processes, I'm actually telling my client, it is important for me to be professional. It's important for me to act with integrity and to bring this to you, the best version of myself as a coach, to you. And that is what our credentialing journey does. Now, the Imagine Me program is giving us some hours. It gives you the direct hours in terms of coach training for ACC, for PCC. And I remember Joanne told me like the hours are there. So you can just add up a little bit more to get your PCC training hours if that's what you want to do. And then your coaching hours. And the good news is, counting your coaching hours started the day you started your program with Imagine Me. So if you started the Workplace Coach 1 and you start tracking all the coaching that you've done since that day to today, that becomes your total training coaching experience hours. So you can add them together and build on there. So doing a program with Workplace and with Imagine Me really sets you up. Now the question is, Malcolm, I've not done the mentor coaching. I've not done that. So from an ICF perspective, for your PCC or for your ACC, if you haven't done the mentor coaching, the full level 1, but you've done components of them and your hours of training is there, then we know that you can do that through the portfolio of evidence route, which means that you give us your certificate plus all supporting documents, plus then you have to go for 10 hours of mentor coaching. And when I was in May, when I was chatting to Joanne, that is something that you will make available. So it's really about going back to Joanne to say, Joanne, I'm really serious about achieving my first credential. I need that 10-hour mentor coaching because I've done this part of the program and not that. Please, can we talk and be able to do that? Now, as an aspiring coach, this is sometimes where we find ourselves, right? So what we try to do is we try to build at least a scenario. This is one of my colleagues, Elisa Chalaco. She's based in Athens, and she helped me to do this. And she's actually done most of the work here. And this is really coming through from our research as well. So some of our goals, especially when we're an aspiring coach, in other words, I'm just starting out now, is I want to learn, I want to belong. Like Joanne mentioned earlier, coaching can be a very lonely profession. So how do I actually move around within this without getting disheartened and just feeling I'm on my own? Your goals are to start earning that credential. You want to build confidence so you can actually have a coaching session with a supervisor, with other supervisors, and be able to support them. And you want to start landing your first clients, whether it be internal coaching or external coaching. Whether it be, I'm doing full-time work here, and on the weekends I want to coach 2 or 3 people over that. And some of the pain points, and this is especially when we just start out, we know that we're competing with something that doesn't exist, which is the self-appointed coach. So the self-appointed coach is what we are competing with because they go on Facebook, TikTok, or whatever it is, and they start advertising all the things. This helps us to actually say, wait a minute, seeing that I've got proper training, seeing that I'm associated with ICF, how does that distill me and take away the noise and set me apart? And this is where while the market and things become very confusing, and the question is, what can ICF do for me for that? And this is where ICF comes in. We actually provide you a clear roadmap, like the one that I showed you on this one here. So there's a clear, but sitting behind that, there's obviously a lot that we support you with and kind of help you in your journey. You get instant credibility. Now, when you become a member, when you are building your credential, there's 2 things that you do. You've built up all the training that you've done and the experience, but there's something that you do. You actually have to sign and say, I adhere to the ICF Code of Ethics. Our core competencies, all those things are in there. And so what you're actually doing to say, when I display my member badge, you will see that nobody can download our member badge other than the member themselves. Nobody can download our credentialing badges that we've got on the screen here other than those credential holders. So it is a digital badge. It actually is regulated. So if you don't renew whatever, you lose the badge. So you can't proclaim to be what you're not. So instantly you get credibility because you start setting yourself apart in the market as one who's got the relevant training with the relevant attitude and the relevant competencies and the relevant ethical practice. And that helps you actually starting to differentiate yourself from other coaches within the market. You are part then of a global community where you are able to connect with members across the globe. We also have community of practices, and this is how we support. So if you're an internal coach, a career coach, a life enhancing coach, an executive coach, a team coach, we've got communities of practice that support you in your learning and your growth in that. And then we've got mentor coaching, a register for mentor coaches. If you feel that you need some more support in terms of mentor coaching, or you can just speak to Joanne in terms of the mentor coaching opportunities that's available to you. ICF membership really gives us a wide range of benefits. And ultimately, when you join ICF or any association for that matter, there's 3 things that you're really looking for. 1, you're looking for professional development and professional education. ICF has got that. 2, you're looking for a very robust credential, something that's going to set you apart in the market. The ICF credentials is the leading credential within the coaching market. Most people, and because we are globally recognized, will recognize the ICF value behind that badge that you show. So credibility is very high in terms of our credentialing process. And then 3, you're looking for a community. We offer you a global and a local and a regional community where you're able to connect with. So from a business and visibility, the moment you get your credential, you can go into the Find a Coach directory. We're giving you toolkits in terms of how to structure your businesses, how's those things. So you were able to attend. We also got a business development series that is available to you. There's marketing support. There's literally, the moment you become a member, you got a slide deck that explains coaching. So if you have to explain it to a client and that, you can use that. Professional excellence. Our ethics resources are available, ongoing education consistently through our learning platform, both on demand and live, and then the credibility that you get with being associated with ICF. There's a lot of professional growth, and then the credentialing success. If you're a member of ICF, you get reduced fees that you pay, or reduced application. You save at least $150 on your application, and then community connection, 60,000 ICF members across 157 countries. We have a platform called ICF Engage, which is like LinkedIn for ICF coaches, where you're able to connect with 60,000 coaches around the world. We also have, somebody asked me the question about, this morning I chatted to somebody, and they asked me about, work and those kind of things. We've got a job board in ICF Engage as well, where you're able to advertise yourself to say, guys, I'm looking here. I'm based in Uganda. I'm looking for opportunities. Anybody's got that. I know that there's an organization in Kenya that went onto the job board and they posted to say, we need so many coaches from these different areas. And I think Uganda was one of them. So looking at those, there's opportunity for you to get there. Now, as I'm getting to a closing statement now, your formula for professional trust, because ultimately what you want to build as a coach is professional trust. If there's no professional trust, you will not get the clients. You will not be able to coach within organization. You will not be able to kind of be recognized broader than where you are at. So something that you want to consider is, for professional trust, you want a membership with a recognized association. You want a robust credential, and you want to subscribe and show your clients that you subscribe to a code of ethics, and that will give you professional trust. And ICF is here to really support you throughout your coaching journey and throughout your coaching career on that. And so my very shameless pitch quickly is, between now and the 10th of August, if you would like to join ICF, you get a 10%, I'm offering a 10% discount on your first year of membership, which will give you access to educational programs, give you access to a community, a global community, which gives you access to a robust credential that you've got. And that's a code that you can use. And then to make use of it, this is how you can join. If you scan the QR code, then you'll be able to get into the join page and see what it is that you need to do. So this is where I will stop for now. So what's on your mind? What has landed? What questions is still unanswered? And then how do we look at any questions that we would like to filter from here?
Wow, 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 wow. Can we first give flowers to Malcolm? You know, he started off with a story before he dived into his slides. With every slide, I was trying to take pictures and updating my WhatsApp, uh, my WhatsApp
The
status to
status.
say things are happening, things are happening. So it's gonna be open to all of you, but I can clearly see that in order to fast track our coaching journey, there is a pathway that has been worked out. So the pathway starts from the day you choose to step into a training class, an ICF approved program. And clearly from what Malcolm has shared with us, you know, one of the things that sometimes I feel sorry for coaches. Some coaches are busy coaching. Unfortunately, when you're coaching and you have not been trained by an approved program, the more you delay, the more you're losing more coaching hours. Because ICF will say, thank you so much, you've been coaching, but no thank you, we are not sure about how you've been coaching. So that means that if, for example, you're trading as a coach, you might trade as a coach, the whole world knows you as a coach. When it comes to the time of looking for your credential, the first question they will ask you, who trained you? Is that program ICF approved? Now, if it's not ICF approved, the pathway that you're talking about, Malcolm, is also such a
Portfolio.
painful
Very
journey, because they are going to ask you to provide the curriculum, provide the presentations, the very things that they ask schools to submit is what they are going to ask you as an individual. So if you are already trading as a coach, cross-check your certificates to say, are they ICF aligned? If they are not, you might want to quickly sign up and fast track that process so that you don't lose more coaching hours. You could have coached for 10 years and then they are telling you, oh, no, you only trained in 2026. And therefore, that's the time that we are going
That's
to
where
be
we start.
training. That's when you start, yeah. And I like where you ended as well when you're talking about professional trust. I think for me, professional trust comes with a lot of humility. That's how I see it. It comes with a lot of humility. The humility to say, I am here to learn. I am going to learn. I might think that I know it all or whatever it is, but then learning is continuous. And what you probably didn't mention is the fact, no, I think you hinted on it, that even these credentials are not held in perpetuity, because as coaches, we are lifelong learners. We need to know what is happening. We are dealing with life. So we are going to open it up. Anything that's caught your attention, questions you might have for Malcolm, insights that you have gained out of this, shoot from any directions. So
Jan, there's something. So one of the questions that came in earlier into the chat was, how can I get comfortable with asking that conversation? Can I coach you without feeling like an imposter? And I can see he had a laughing emoji next to it. So, which is quite interesting. So the question is not, can I coach you? The question is, what would you like to think about together? What would you like to explore? Would you like me to explore this with you? Remember, coaching is the tool. The end result is the destination that your client wants to get to. So even when you start talking to somebody as a coach, I don't want you to do coaching. When we do something to someone, it's an intervention. And people don't like interventions. But if coaching becomes your being, it means that even when you speak about the weather, somebody thinks differently about the weather. I was like, oh, hey, Malcolm, what have you done? This is like, I like the way this is my coaching style conversation that I'm having. And this is the value that you're getting from having a conversation like this. So it's very difficult to sell coaching. It's very somebody about to convince somebody about coaching if you do not step up and just let them experience it first. So an experience them is just saying, can we have that conversation? So I'm not sure who raised that question and if I've kind of given a glimpse at least of some way to approach it.
thank you, Malcolm, for that. How you start the conversation matters. Should I do coaching for you or can we think through together? I love that. Okay. Who's next? Who has a question, an insight that you have probably picked out of Malcolm's presentation? The people who asked what next, do we have some answers? Any questions, insights? Malcolm is going to disappear and go back to manage Europe and Africa. We have him tonight. Better make use of the time.
Yeah. There's another question. So, I mean, as they're thinking about the question, I really would like to hear somebody's voice. It's always good. The question is learning more on how to become a better coach. And so maybe Andrew, who was leader as coach, and I'm literally just because he's in front of my screen in terms of his name. So, Andrew, are you there?
I am, yes. I hoped you couldn't see me.
Yeah. Okay. So, Andrew, question that I've got quickly for you. If you have to answer this question for somebody learning more on how to become a better coach, what would you tell them?
I'd honestly think practicing or coaching people a lot more. Personal experience, there's the classes that we did with Joanne and Imagine Me, and then the sessions I started having with my colleagues, with my team, and with random people. In the classes, it was easy to follow in on the framework, the methodology, and everything. And then when I started having actual conversations with people, and you have to dissect on whether it is a mentorship issue, if it is the person is looking for a counselor, or the person just wants to vent, or
Yeah.
you didn't listen to the issue they presented at hand. I must say it gets better as you keep practicing it. So I think that would be the first step, at least in my opinion.
So get better at coaching by practicing coaching. So coach more. And that is so true. If you want to get better at running, run more. It's as simple as that. Yes, you need to have a structure about your training and all those things, but you can't get better if you do less. So you need to do it more. Find every opportunity, whether it's a conversation with your kids, whether it's a conversation with a colleague, whether it's literally to be able to do that. You got a network here on this call as well, in terms of people that were in your class. Practice with them to say, can have a three-way conversation, peer coaching as an example. You start practicing in that, offering to do something pro bono. And I see the question in the chat about the context for Uganda and low paid workforce. And so the question is, how do I make it available and how do I bring those? So how to get better at coaching, become a better coach, is literally coach more. That's one. Secondly, read, getting context, opportunities to learn more. There's different coaching methodologies, there's different ways of doing things. Find your rhythm in that. But you will not find it if you don't read and if you don't train and if you don't coach. And then the question about the young workforce, I understand that context. That's not just Uganda. I mean, there's quite a few areas within and outside of Africa as well. If I go to Latin America, we got a similar issue. Now, remember the $200 is average, and that's a global average. So keep in mind that that includes Europe's $400 or something that somebody will charge in Western Europe, etc. So this is in an average. So the benchmark is, yes, we want to get closer to that. Now, there's different formats in which you can do that. First thing that I want to say is never discount your value by lowering your price too low. Understanding that I'm bringing value, because remember, coaching is empowering. And so how do I make sure that my client understands the value that they are getting, even though I give them a discount? So when I started out, and I was very bold, and I'll tell you why I became that bold. My coach, so during my coaching program, I had a coach, and I was telling her that I'm battling to charge people. I'm charging them like something like $10 or something like that and whatever. And there's a question that she asked me. She said, Malcolm, what do you need to believe about yourself to understand that you have value to add and you can charge the requisite price for that? What do you need to believe about yourself? Now, sometimes we think about the other person, and yes, that is right, because we work within a market. It's like any product. When you want to sell baked beans, I'm not sure, do you guys have baked beans in Uganda? Or you want to sell beans or maize or whatever it is? You look at your market, you understand what the market price is there, and you stick around that. Same thing with coaching. Find out in Uganda more or less what are the averages, but look at it from, yes, from organizational point of view, I'm willing to charge that. From an individual point of view, I'm willing to charge this. Now, if Malcolm cannot pay your $150, $200 alone, remember, individual coaching is one way, but there's also an element called group coaching, where you can have a group going on their individual journeys together. It's not team coaching. Team coaching is when you actually take an entire team. So group coaching is I can get 6 to 8 people within a group. They can share the cost. So instead of paying me $200 individually, they pay $75 individually. That kind of makes up then for me a price for doing the group coaching. So maybe getting skilled in terms of group coaching as well will help you to reach, will help you to earn, and at the same time without compromising the quality of the coaching that you're doing. So it's about structure. And I think earlier, as I mentioned, you need to diversify your clients. So there are corporate clients that I know that's going to pay me my top dollars. Then it's going to be my SMEs, which is mid-price. Then it's going to be the individual clients where I know they really can't pay, but that is part of my personal social impact job that I want to do. So we all as coaches have a heart, but with your heart also bring business and understanding how do I structure my coaching practice to be able to earn at these different levels. So the $200 is an average. Please keep in mind that average is global. The African average is about 150, but that includes Egypt and everybody to South Africa as well. Look at your context, but then ask yourself, what's the best way of bringing it together? The more people find value, the more they're willing to pay and find it. I literally had somebody that waited for 6 months before they afforded me, and then they came back to me to say, I'm willing to start now because I've got the cash to be able to start this. Titus, is there a question on top of the question that I've answered now? Or based on what is that okay in what I've answered to you?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, cool. Joanne, I think I was very clear because there's no questions. There's one.
No, well, the questions had been posted in here. I think, David,
chat.
your question was answered as well in terms of how Malcolm structured his presentation. I think there were 2 questions on cost. How can I get comfortable? You answered that. How can I get comfortable? Any other question? Insights?
So this is the one that, how do I choose my niche? It depends. What are you passionate about? And why are you passionate about that? My niche became 2 areas. One was entrepreneurs, specifically in the tech space. And that was important for me to be able to actually, from a personal unemployment point of view, also Africa's unemployment rate, our youth unemployment rate, if I could help an entrepreneur to have a sustainable business, it meant that at least that entrepreneur was not unemployed. Because remember, if his business fails, he becomes part of our stats. By helping him grow his business, he employs more people, so which means 2 people are less unemployed. And that for me was the steps in terms of what I got. Finding your niche is a thing between your passions that you've got, but also what's available within your market. And who is your client? Defining the client that can pay you and somebody that you really enjoy working with. So if you enjoy working with executives, then that will become your niche. Something that I would recommend though, and this, I'm speaking now my own mind, né? So don't blame ICF for what Malcolm is saying on this one. Sometimes you find your niche, and sometimes your niche finds you. That is an important thing. Sometimes I just need to be open and explore different things, work with different people. And the more I work with a certain group of people, I find the connection between me and them and me. And that becomes your niche. Other times, I'm very clear to say, I want to work with executives. I had a thing where I said, I never want to work with government. Guess what? My biggest client was government because it found me and we connected. And so from that point, we were okay. So finding your niche, it's a journey. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. If you go on, there's a lot of articles, if you Google it, just to say, finding my coaching niche. Different people give you different perspectives. Hold them lightly, read them, but hold them lightly, but go on your journey in terms of who am I, what's important to me, and how does my client and I connect with each other.
Okay, then there's another question. How to coach other supervisors within the workspace. That's Rita.
So Rita, can you just explain to me that question, if you don't mind?
Rita, if you're on the call, please. Okay, maybe she dropped off.
Yeah.
So
coaching other supervisors. So and the context that's missing for me is she a supervisor? In other words, coaching her peers, or is she a manager coaching? So I'll speak from both contexts. When it comes to your peers, remember your peers need to believe in coaching as well. And so how do I coach them? It depends on the context that you find yourself in. Coaching your peers is not always easy, because it's always that thing. I think, Joanne, part of the training you would have taught them the risk of coaching a friend is that you know too much already about this friend before they get into the coaching session. And so we start parallel processing and start assuming certain things. But it's the same thing as in terms of the question about, can I coach you? It's literally to say, what is it that you want to discuss? Can we move together? I see that you're battling with this. Would you like to have a coaching session on this? I'm willing to offer you an hour of my time. We can think about it together and see what solution we come up. And remember, coaching is always goals. And you ask them the question, supervisor, friend, supervisor, employee, what do you want to achieve in this conversation? What will help you best and what will drive you forward? So how do I coach a supervisor? How do I coach anybody? Is really to ask them, what is it that, how can you support them in getting to the conclusion that they need to get to, or to the outcome that they need to get to? Asking those questions will help you open up the conversation for a coaching session and be able to do that. That is in my own mind. And I'm not sure if you got a different opinion or thought on that that might support them as well.
Well, I think every time I think about the workplace coach context, it's a little bit different from the typical external coach. And we normally encourage a lot of the coaching bursts concept, where, it doesn't have to be a 1 hour conversation. In 5 minutes, you can ask a very powerful
Powerful
coaching
question.
question. Yes.
Absolutely.
And so I think that way, because in most cases, if you're going to coach supervisors, I'm not sure you're going to come off and say, I'm busy coaching you. It is in the way you're listening to them, being able to listen and ask a clarifying question or whatever it is. And so as you do that, you'll be coaching them by default. And they have no idea that you're coaching them. And most likely they are going to get back to you and say, by the way, every time I'm having conversations with you, I feel that things are a little bit different. And they might want now to open up a little bit more because they feel safe with you. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Divine,
that's the
thank
thing. It's
you.
all about building trust.
Yes, because it has to come to that place of trust, especially in our context where people already have their ideas about who a supervisor should be. When you're talking about coaching and you're talking about equal partnership, then it means that in that moment, if I'm to coach you, I'm not looking at you as my supervisor. Yes, Divine, go for it. It's good to hear somebody's voice. Thank you, Divine, for
Yes.
putting up your hand.
Thank you very much, Joan. I've really enjoyed the session today. And I just want to encourage everyone that I do coaching at my workplace, but the day I got the ICF certification, my role amplified. I actually, it's really benefited my role as a manager. And what we've done in my workplace is tailoring the approach to be integrated in the annual performance and appraisal purpose. Yeah. So the coaching process focuses on developing leadership capabilities, strengthening change management skills, preparing managers to embody and promote organizational culture. So this helped to align the individual performance with organizational strategies and objectives, ensuring that everyone is working towards a common goal. But I had to take the initiative and tell my bosses that, look here, I am a certified coach and I would like to use this skill in the workplace. So I paid for my own ACCA. And when my organization realized that the coaching is very good and I'm able to empower quite a number of people, they paid for my PCC. So and it's one of my KPIs. So on an annual, I have a minimum of 80 hours coaching, and it's been identified as an additional skill set. Yeah. So as I wrote in the chat, workplace coaching that you just did is a great step. But ICF accreditation actually spotlights your journey. And now that you get your qualification, wear it as a badge and be proud about it. In your next appraisal, speak to your boss and tell them, by the way, I have this certification that I can use to improve on probably the work-life balance or the communication strategy, or in whatever angles you think you can capitalize. And then it will start bringing in revenue. That was my channel and it has worked. Thank you.
Thank you, Divine. That's very powerful. And there's a few things that I think that you're mentioning, which is worthwhile, re-emphasizing is one, taking initiative. It's like you can't wait for a job. You need to go and create the job sometimes yourself. So take the initiative. Two, if you make coaching as part of your KPIs at work, every coaching hour that you do at work becomes a paid hour because it's now part of your, call it your role. Like Divine has mentioned, it's part of her KPIs. And we pay her to deliver KPIs. So her total cost. So when she looks at her 500 hours for PCC, it wasn't just me trying to get another 500 hours somewhere and people to pay me, but she could use that 80 hours a year that she's getting as paid hours to be able to help her with that. So even if you're coaching internally, it's not always having to look completely outside for clients. Make it as part of your KPIs at work. Once it's part of your KPIs, you're able to do it. When I coached internally, myself and my one colleague, I was in HR at that time, what we did was we started coaching in each other's business areas. So I didn't coach in my own business areas because I had the HR responsibility for that area. So you don't want to confuse them. And so I used to coach into her area and she used to coach into my area. And then, like Divina said, the performance management, the talent management conversations shifted and people actually started doing different things, becoming better employees, becoming more innovative, and those things that they try to do with that. So, Divine, thank you very much for sharing your journey. And I think there's a few lessons. One is take the initiative. Two, speak to people and telling them, this is what I've got, this is what I can do. And three, make it as part of your KPIs, and you don't have to hustle for paid hours because it becomes automatically paid. Titus.
Thank you. In the course of my work, I found myself having conversations which draw from what we learned in the coaching session. And I asked myself how the hours question fits in and how I can record that, yet I'm in a context which doesn't allow recording. How does that play out with this hour accumulation? So for instance, we had the graduation in April, May, and I know I've plugged in another maybe 20, 30 hours, but it catches me in context where I'm not able to record and bring that in as evidence of recording. And yet I keep hearing hours. Give me a sense of what that looks like with groups.
So, okay, cool. So in terms of hours, right? So the first thing is you record them for every hour of coaching. You don't record the actual conversation. It's literally when you do a log, it's a coaching log that you do, hour log. You say on the 3rd of August, it was Malcolm and for 1 hour. That's it. That's the kind of thing. Key thing with coaching is contracting. Remember, every coaching session has got a contract in terms of what are we going to, where do they want to go. Besides that, you also contract with them to say, I'm busy building hours towards my ACC or my PCC. I would like to add this coaching session, and you can tell them there's no data about this coaching session that will be revealed other than the date and time and who I coached and that. And if I submit, ICF might do an audit and those kind of things. So you get the permission from the client that you can record them. But because you're not recording any specific details about them, clients are generally very happy. I did that as part of my thing and it's still there. I just tell them that I'm keeping my coaching log and it's very easy to do that. So Titus, from that point, you can actually just log your hours as you do that. The other thing is there's something that you mentioned about a group. So when you do team coaching or group coaching, remember if there's 5 people in that group, you can't count 5 hours for the 1 hour of work, right? So it is one session for 1 hour, irrespective of the amount of people that's in there. So just keep that in mind, is that when I do team coaching or group coaching, it's not the amount of people times 1 hour. It is 1 hour of coaching that I'm actually doing in that context. Titus, did I answer your question in terms of the hours?
Very clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then David had a question. He says, how much in cost are we looking at? How long does it take? David, is this in terms of the training or the credential?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, in terms of joining ICF for
Joining ICF, yeah.
gaining the credential, because I'm a coach, I'm a software development coach and job readiness coach, but the truth is that I don't have credentials for that. I use my experience, my connections here and there, to help people learn and then get jobs. Now I want to give it a credential so that maybe I can have like something I feel like is certified,
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in terms of your credentialing to ICF, it depends on, I mean, if you haven't done an ICF, so the question is it an ICF accredited program like the workplace coach one, which gives you direct access to the ICF credential. The only thing that you need in addition to that is your 100 hours of coaching experience. If it's a non-accredited program, then you need to go through the portfolio route, and that takes a little bit more time. Because as Joanna said, there's a lot of paperwork in that. And what I'll do is I'll share a link to the credentialing processes. Let me just see a credentialing overview. You can work through this link and that will give you the sense in terms of, the requirements for the portfolio route and or the levels route that you can go in. In terms of how long does it take, really, David, it depends on how quickly you get things done. Because what we need for ACC, 60 hours of coach-specific training aligned to the ICF standards, 100 hours of coaching experience to start with. Now, if it was not done through a level 1 program, that means that you need another 10 hours of mentor coaching that you need to add there. And that mentor coaching cannot be done all within 3 months. I think just remind me, the mentor coaching is over 3 months, a minimum of 3 months.
Yeah, it's spread, minimum of 3 months.
Minimum of 3 months. So you can't push them all into 1 week and then suddenly have your 10 hours. It's a minimum of 3 months. And the reason for that is to make sure that the quality assurance and things come through on that. So it's really, So how long it's going to take? It's how quickly you get your 60 hours of coach-specific training, your mentor coaching hours, and be able to produce 100 hours of coaching experience, of which 75 is paid. 25 can be pro bono, 75 is paid. David, did I answer you on that? And to make your life very easy, if you haven't done it, speak to Joanne. She will help you to get there quickly with her training.
Okay, thank you so much, Malcolm. And we're about to get to the top of the hour. I think you've exhaustively responded to the questions that we had. And those of you whose voices were able to listen to, Divine, Titus, David, thank you so much for adding to this. And just to let you know that, yes, we continue when we do, for the people on the Leader as Coach program, something that we hadn't paid attention to until Malcolm happened in May. We realize that you actually have 60 hours of coach training. So what that means is that you pass that initial requirement. So at any point, if you feel like you want to go and start on the journey for credentialing, Andrew, track your hours so that all you would be paying for then would become the mentor coaching process that is spread over 3 months. So you don't have to worry about what else. So you just need to dive in and you'll be supported that way. Otherwise, as Imagine Me Africa, we take 2 intakes. One of the intakes is July, which is currently running, and they graduate in November. And then the other intake is usually in January. They graduate in May during the International Coaching Week. For the Leader as Coach, it is a case-by-case basis because we go into an organization. And that's how we kind of work around that. And we are happy with the kind of recordings that our people are submitting. So we know that we are coaching very strong, solid coaches. So for me, that is very, very exciting because I get an opportunity to compare what is out there and I see the kind of quality that we have. So thank you so much.